A few weeks ago, my workplace held its annual staff party. It was a lot of fun, and one of my managers expressed to me the following week that he'd love to do that again. I replied eagerly because I also had a lot of fun and was keen to get the work gang back together. Since then, he has made small comments to me about this second party, such as what cocktails we should have, what dates would work best, and that he wanted to get a hotel room for us to drink at before hitting the town. And now that I'm thinking back on it, he also told me not to tell anyone because he didn't want anyone thinking he was picking favorites. That comment really didn't register as suspicious to me at the time because I've always trusted him. I was under the impression that his intent was to organize another staff party and invite a number of team members from work. So I would reply to all these comments in an excited way. Please note, nothing suggestive or flirtatious has ever happened between us. Not sober at work or drunk at the staff party. I had no reason to believe he was interested in me, and he has no reason to believe I'm interested in him. It's always been a friendly work relationship. He is also married, and I have a boyfriend. Anyway, I received a text from him this afternoon, thanking me for all my hard work and saying he was excited to celebrate, have fun, and drink with me. He told me we should both take Monday off, so we didn't have to worry about getting up for work. And he included a picture of the hotel room he wanted to book, which had just one double bed in it. He sent a follow-up message saying, "I forgot to ask if you'd be comfortable sharing a room." I was feeling a bit confused and asked who else he was planning to invite from work, to which he replied he wanted it to just be him and I because I'm the only one that deserves it, and so he wanted to shout me drinks in a room and have some fun. By now I was feeling suspicious and uncomfortable, but still wanted further clarification before I said anything accusatory, and so I asked him what he meant by fun. At this point, I think he could tell I was feeling weird about it, and so he said it was just to hang out, drink, and listen to music, and the room was so I didn't have to worry about driving and that it would probably be better to discuss in person rather than over text. I didn't reply straight away, and about half an hour later he sent a follow-up message saying, "Fun is whatever I want it to be, and that he has no limitations." I then shut down the conversation by thanking him for recognizing my hard work, but I didn't think it would be appropriate for us to share a room. He replied by saying he didn't want to make me uncomfortable and that he'd get me my own room. I could just come to his room to drink. I haven't replied. I am currently feeling extremely uneasy. I work very closely with this man, as I am currently training under him for a promotion. I had a lot of trust for him, and now I feel nervous about seeing him. I feel sick at the idea of turning up to work tomorrow. I feel sick thinking about working with him. I'm just suddenly worried about so many things, like the fact that our job is very labor-intensive, and I'm now hyper-aware of the number of times I have to bend over. The fact that he's married. I'm worried I'm reading into things too much, or this isn't that big of a deal. He is very close with my other manager, and I am concerned about whether I would be taken seriously if I expressed my discomfort. I am also worried that whatever action I do decide to take might impact the promotion I am lined up for, whether that be to report it to my other manager or HR, say something to him, or try and let it wash over without saying anything. In my head, any of these responses from me could have damaging ramifications, depending on how he reacts, which could potentially affect my comfort in the workplace and impact my career goals. My boyfriend thinks it's considered harassment, and that regardless of whether he's married or not, it was still an attempt to leverage his position of power over my job by making this advance work-related, celebrating my hard work because I deserve it more than anyone else, and that I should report it. I'm not sure what I'm thinking at the moment. I've been crying all afternoon as I'm so nervous about returning to work, and I hate the stress, guilt, and anxiety that this has caused. I guess I'm just wanting some outsider opinions. Text messages were obviously a lot longer, but that is the rough gist of them. Can explain more in depth if people need more context. Edited some spelling errors. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm a 52-year-old man and I feel creeped out for you. It's really, really creepy. I would never, ever even consider suggesting sharing a hotel room, to drink or otherwise, with a coworker, let alone a significantly younger coworker. and I would never consider anything near this with a subordinate, male or female, alone. Pre-meeting lunch or post-meeting coffee with a subordinate may be okay. Mentor sessions in an office conference room, okay. Drinking in a hotel room one-on-one with a subordinate sounds very Harvey Weinstein. I would do my best to avoid one-on-one time that isn't in a public setting with this manager. Can you report this person anonymously, like through an ethics portal? Comment 2. Oh man, I'm so sorry. This is not going to be fun moving forward. How big is this company? Do you have an HR department or just someone who kind of does HR? Screenshot everything and get ready for a really uncomfortable work environment for a while. OP, he knows what he is doing. He has likely tried this shoot with young women before. He didn't misinterpret something you said or did. He is a scumbag trying to take advantage of your youth and his position of power over you at the workplace. End of story. Now, for the update. Thanks for the comments on my last post. Well, things escalated quickly after that. I went to work the next day, trying to act normal, but I could tell he knew something was off. He kept trying to talk to me alone, and I was dodging him like it was some kind of twisted game. But then, out of nowhere, he announced he was leaving his wife. The whole office was buzzing, and I felt like I was in some bad dream. Turns out, his wife had found the messages he sent me. She stormed into the office screaming at him, and that's when the secret spilled out. He'd been doing this with other women in the office, and I was just the latest. The wife had enough and was taking him for everything he had. I felt a mix of relief and disgust, knowing I wasn't alone, but also that he was such a snake. But here's where it gets crazy. One of the other women, let's call her Miss X, was furious. She'd thought they had something special. So she took it upon herself to make sure he paid for his lies. She went to HR with evidence of everything. Texts, emails, you name it. The office was in an uproar, and HR had no choice but to fire him. I couldn't believe it. He was gone just like that. I thought that was the end of it, but no, Miss X wasn't done. She wanted to make sure he couldn't do this to anyone else. She contacted his wife, and together they decided to go public. They gave an interview to some local news station, and suddenly it was everywhere. His reputation was in tatters, and I couldn't help but think he got what he deserved. But the aftermath was messy. The office was divided, some feeling sorry for him, others glad he was gone. I was caught in the middle, trying to focus on my work and the promotion I was still in line for. It was tough, but I kept my head down and did my job. Then, another surprise. The company was being sued. Turns out, there were complaints about him before, and nothing was done. It was a huge scandal, and the higher-ups were scrambling to do damage control. They started offering settlements left and right, trying to keep it out of the courts. In the end, I got my promotion, but the office never felt the same. There was an air of distrust, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was only promoted to keep me quiet. I'm still there, but I'm looking for other jobs. I don't want to be part of a place that covers up for people like him. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend dumps me over text because of different life goals, but when he comes crawling back, I shut him down and watch him lose his job for embezzlement. My boyfriend of a year said that he does not see us spending our lives together after I urged him to talk about where our relationship was headed. I started dating him after he ended his 5-year-long relationship, and initially it took a minute for him to become official with me because he had commitment issues. We broke up twice before for the same reason, but he kept coming back, saying that he got scared and he can't afford to lose a person like me. Well, yesterday when I asked if he sees me as a partner, he said he loves me, but he doesn't. According to him, our bigger life goals don't align. He wants to bring about a change in this world or something, and can't be okay with the status quo. I asked him what he wants to do, and he had no freaking idea. He was like, maybe I am confused and I see how I am the problem. He said he doesn't think I compliment him 10 out of 10, and how there are 7 billion people in the world. And he is sure there is someone who is a 10-10 for him. He also added, I am not ready to commit right now. But even if I were, it wouldn't be with you. He was so brutal about it. He also said that he stayed with me because he loves me. He has also loved all his previous exes, but does not mean he would have married them. I have never felt this hurt from him. He thinks I am pretty, and I pay a lot of attention to looking presentable. And life is not all about that or going out. How should I navigate this? Is there any coming back from here? I am so tired of dating men. I am looking for a life partner, but I have been having a hard time looking for one lately. All my exes are settled and happy, and here I am going through another breakup. Edit. I sent him a text. Me. I felt truly insulted by you today. It's crystal clear to me now just how much I've bent over backwards out of love for you. Your comment about life not being about always looking pretty and going out was a slap in the face, reducing all my hard work and accomplishments to nothing. Saying you're searching for a E1010 was not just unkind, but downright cruel to someone who has poured their heart into this relationship. Your recent fixation on shallow aspects of my life, instead of appreciating me for who I am, has been incredibly hurtful. It just tells me that you really didn't know me from my heart. Yes, thank you for giving me this freedom. And you are right, I need to set my bar high. Another thing that I noticed, it's lovely how you have such high regards for your mama, as one should. So I think that you are looking for someone who is exactly like your mother. Honestly, good luck finding someone. I hope you do. This is the first time you have really hurt me and my feelings. And moving forward, I don't want to keep any association with you. I think I gave us way too much grace than we deserved. Let me know when you can return my stuff and we can be fully done with this. His reply, okay. Don't think it'll help much, but I think a lot more of you than that. Said the wrong words today and it came off like something I don't mean. I'm sorry. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Definitely sounds like commitment phobia. Honestly, don't even waste any more time. He will get scared of commitment, let you go, realize what he missed, chase you, get you back, and repeat. Go find someone who wants to be with you and is proud to be your partner. Comment 2. Rip off the Band-Aid. At least he was honest. Please don't waste years. When he finds this person, he won't even see you in the rearview mirror. Just block him and move on. You'll never meet the right person while you chase the wrong one. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear this mess. So, after that text exchange, things went from bad to worse. I thought I'd made myself clear, but he showed up at my place the next day with a box of my stuff and a bouquet of flowers. I should have known better than to open the door. He started with the whole "I made a mistake" spiel. And for a second, I almost believed him. But then he said something that made my blood boil. He told me he talked to his ex, the one before me, and she'd made him realize he was being unfair to me. Can you believe that? He needed his ex to tell him that? I was fuming, but I kept it together. I took my stuff, left the flowers on the ground, and told him we were done for good. But he wouldn't leave. He said he needed to explain, that it wasn't what I thought. He claimed his ex was just a friend now, someone who knew him well and could give him perspective. I didn't buy it. I told him to leave, but he was persistent. He said he'd been seeing a therapist, trying to work on his commitment issues, and that he realized he was projecting his insecurities onto me. He said he wanted to try again, for real this time. I was confused, hurt, and a part of me wanted to believe him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I told him I needed time to think and shut the door in his face. The next day, I got a call from a friend who'd seen him out with his ex. They were laughing, looking cozy. It was like a punch in the gut. I confronted him over text, and he had the audacity to say they were just catching up as friends. But then, the real kicker came. He accidentally sent me a message meant for her, talking about their great time last night and how he was working on getting rid of the baggage, meaning me. I was livid. I called him out, and he tried to backpedal, saying it was a misunderstanding. But I knew better. I realized he'd been manipulating me all along, using me as a placeholder until he figured out what he wanted. And his therapist? Non-existent. He'd made it all up to get me to sympathize with him. I blocked him on everything. I was done. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. The next day, I got a message from his ex, the same one he'd been catching up with. She told me she was sorry for any part she played in this. She said she'd been under the impression that we were long over and that he'd been telling her he was single for months. She'd only found out the truth when she saw the look on my friend's face at the bar. She was just as much a victim of his lies as I was. We ended up meeting for coffee, and she filled me in on all the lies he'd told her about me. It was like a soap opera, but it was my life. She was actually really nice. We bonded over being played by the same guy. I thought that was the end of it, but no. A few days later, I found out he'd been fired from his job for embezzling company funds. It turned out his grand plans for changing the world were funded by money that wasn't his. The whole wanting to make a difference thing was just a cover for his shady dealings. It was all coming out now, and everyone could see him for who he really was. I felt a mix of vindication and sadness. I'd wasted so much time on someone who was never really who he said he was. But I also felt free from his lies, his manipulation, and the twisted hold he had on me. I started focusing on myself, my goals, and what I really wanted in a partner. And that's where I'm at now, picking up the pieces, but feeling stronger for it. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I won't be fooled like that again. Thanks for reading. My boyfriend complains about our mismatched intimacy drives and disrespects my boundaries. So after 18 months, I kicked him out and showed him who's trapped without me. I, 26 years old, and boyfriend, 27 years old, have been together for 18 months. Let me preface this by saying I am a textbook overthinker, so if you think this is that, let me know. And to also say I have talked to him about this multiple times. I understand that sex intimacy is a foundational part of a relationship, but I am also in the mindset that no one is entitled to intimacy. My boyfriend, let's call him Luke, has a very high intimacy drive, unless it's a male thing. But he could have intimacy 10 times a day, every day, 365 days a year. I, on the other hand, have what I would consider a low intimacy drive. I don't need it often and am not overly fussed by it. But this is not to say that when we have intimacy, it isn't good, because it's great. However, if we don't have intimacy for a few days or a week, he becomes very distant, moody, and essentially thinks I don't find him attractive anymore, etc. Which of course isn't true. My biggest peeve is I'm not a morning intimacy person. I am not a morning person, full stop. We have talked about this so many times, yet he continues to pester me in the morning, waking me up to have intimacy 30 minutes to an hour before I actually have to get up, even if I'm up at 5 a.m. that morning, which drives me insane. I told him I feel like he doesn't respect that I don't like it and doesn't respect me, my boundaries or my body, to which he has apologized for multiple times, then continues to do it. And if it were him that said he didn't like something sexually, I wouldn't do it or continue to pester, ask for him to do it. He then told me in an argument that intimacy is the only way he can de-stress and relax, which then makes me feel like I'm obliged to do it all the time in a way to de-stress him. And if I don't, I'm not helping or making it worse. He also said that doing it in the morning is the best way for him to start the day, completely ignoring the fact that I have multiple times said, I flat out don't like it. So I feel guilty for not doing it. In a recent argument, he also said that work is my whole life. For context, his family has a business, and he does the majority of the work, which I understand is stressful for him. This came up after he blew up about the intimacy problem because he was happy to tell me all this intimacy he needs. Yet, when I merely mentioned that it would be nice on the odd day off to go out together and do things because we don't, he said work was his whole life, and he needed his days off to reset. Now, I understand needing time off to reset and relax, but I typically work 5 days, and I'm out of the house for 12, 13 hours a day, and I do all of the housework, so my 2 days off are mainly taken up by doing that. So I don't really get 2 full days off to sit around and relax. So my argument there was he gets days off to reset and relax, but I get 2 days off to do housework, because if I didn't, it wouldn't get done. For example, I have been asking to go out for tea date night for a couple of weeks, and I would be paying before anyone says anything. Yet there's always been work. Yet today, I asked, and he said no, because he had to be out early in the morning. He finished work at 4 p.m., so we could have been out for tea at 5 p.m., home by 7 p.m., and in bed by 8 p.m. Bearing in mind, we haven't had a date night for about 4 or 5 months now. Now, for some more background, I've never wanted kids. Never my whole life, however, since being with him. It was something I'd begun to consider, but now I think, well, you read these horror stories of women with husbands/partners who expect them to be able to have intimacy again a week after giving birth. And I'm honestly worried that if that were to happen and say, I couldn't for weeks on end, he'd be beside himself. And him saying, work is my whole life. I understand his profession is difficult and time-consuming and stressful, etc. But I'm terrified it'd be one of those where I'm home all day, every day, looking after the child that he'd never see. And when I'd obviously at some point need a break, I worry that I'd never get one because he'd be so stressed and needs his days off. So am I overthinking? Or is my concern genuine because I feel unhappy at the moment and I'm not 100% sure what to do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sweetie, you're a housemaid. You do all the work and are expected to provide intimacy whenever he wants. He has little regard for his domestic life, only his professional life, which you are supposed to support. I would be furious if my boyfriend kept waking me up early for intimacy that he knows very well I do not want. Break up with him. Comment 2. Yeah, no. There are numerous reasons why you should end the relationship. The two of you are sexually very incompatible. He doesn't respect your boundaries. He doesn't make any effort in the relationship. And he doesn't do his share of household chores. Break up with him. Now, for the update. Thank you for tuning in again. So, things have been pretty tense around here lately. Just when I thought it couldn't get any more complicated, it did. Luke and I had another blow-up. And this time it was about something more than just our mismatched drives. It was about trust and respect, and it shook me to the core. 3 days ago, I caught Luke in a lie. It was something small about whether he had finished a work project, but it was the way he lied so effortlessly that got to me. It made me wonder what else he might be lying about. I've always known he's a bit of a charmer, the kind who can talk his way out of anything, but seeing that side of him used on me, it stung. Then, yesterday, I found out he'd been venting to his friends about our private life, about how I was frigid and uninterested. That cut deep. I've always been private about our issues, thinking it was just between us. To know he'd shared something so personal, it felt like a betrayal. And it wasn't just the sharing, it was the words he used, the way he made me out to be the bad guy. But today was the real kicker. I came home early from work, planning to surprise Luke with a date night, to try and mend things. I walked in to find him on the phone, and the words I overheard before he saw me, they were about me. He was telling someone how he felt trapped, how he was considering an out. My heart sank. I'd been trying so hard to make things work, and here he was, looking for an escape. I confronted him, and it all came out. He admitted he'd been feeling overwhelmed by the business, by us, by everything. He said he loved me but wasn't sure if that was enough anymore. I was floored. We'd been through so much, and I'd been so focused on the intimacy issues that I hadn't seen the bigger picture. He was struggling too, in his own way. We talked for hours, and it was raw and real. He confessed that he felt like he couldn't meet my needs, that my independence and strength made him feel inadequate at times. I never knew he felt that way. I'd always seen those parts of me as positives, but for him, they were intimidating. In the end, we made a decision. It was the hardest one I've ever had to make. We decided to take a break, to give each other space to figure out what we really wanted. It wasn't a breakup, but it wasn't not a breakup either. It was a pause, a breath in the middle of a long, hard conversation. So here I am, sitting in our apartment alone, surrounded by silence instead of the usual chaos of our life together. It's bittersweet. I miss him even though he's only been gone a few hours, but there's also a sense of relief. Like I can finally breathe, think, be myself without worrying about how it affects him. I don't know what the future holds for us. Maybe we'll find our way back to each other, stronger and more in tune with what we both need. Or maybe this is the beginning of the end. Either way, I'm going to use this time to focus on me, to remember who I am outside of us. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day,